There we are. Yay.
How are you?
I got chilly. I had to put on
I was going to say, is it chilly there? It turned to fall suddenly?
You know, I think our heater just goes off. It's still set on the schedule back when we had offices.
Oh, I
And
see.
so it got really cold mid-morning. I'm like, oh,
Ah,
jacket.
yeah. My building, I live in a condo where the heating and cooling is centralized, and they haven't even turned on the heat yet.
Oh,
So, look at
yeah.
you, cat ears.
Look at our forest elf. That's very impressive.
Thank you. I'm raiding my Halloween box just to, I don't know, because I don't have anything else to do.
Those are kitty cat ears or some other kind of ear?
They appear to be cat ears. They're kind of silky on the inside. I think I have another pair that look more kitty cat-like. These almost look like little black horns.
Mm-hmm. That's why I asked, because they might be, yeah, they could be interpreted as several things, I guess.
They're made of like some kind of faux velvet. Oh, and there's a cat. Hi. What's happening today? What excitement. Not you guys.
I've been at work since 8 a.m. So
Mondays, yeah. Mondays are weird.
Yeah, they are.
Mondays are now my day for just getting organized and figuring out what lies ahead. And there's a bunch of, projects that are starting and paperwork that needs to be filled out and sort of riveting stuff like that, sort of dealing with some operational systems. And then fun times, the email associated with our MailChimp address for sending out newsletters goes to my email. So I have like 200, notifications of people who are out of office or or unsubscribing or whatever. It's like, great. So that's why Monday. Riveting stuff.
Well, I can report that I'm reading a good book. I actually had to look at what it is on my phone. It's called American Spy by Lauren Wilkinson.
Ooh, that sounds good.
Yeah.
Who's the spy?
It's in the 80s, and it's a story about a woman of kind of mixed racial background who has the ambition to get into intelligence work. And I'm maybe like a third of the way through the book, and it looks like she's going to be going undercover to try to get close to the new head of Cote d'Ivoire on behalf of the CIA. But it apparently got, I don't even know how I heard about it, but I'm really enjoying it, when you're kind of in a book. And it was like 10 o'clock last night, and I was like, I need to stop reading this book so I can go to bed. But it was intriguing enough. And I think because it takes place in the 80s, she's probably a little bit older than my age, but like a lot of the context and cultural references. And it takes place, she grows up in New York. So it's kind of fun to have New York as a background for this story. And it's about family relationships, how her family relationships play out into whatever is going to happen to her when she becomes a spy. But recommended.
What's it called?
Okay.
American Spy?
American Spy by Lauren Wilkinson. And I'm just looking. The author looks like she got her MFA in fiction from Columbia and was also taught at the Fashion Institute of Technology. So,
interesting.
She looks young. I mean, it's always funny when people who are not of like our generation write about the 80s. Did you all read the Great Believers?
No.
Which was a book that was pretty popular maybe 2 years ago, and it takes place in Boys Town in Chicago during the height of the HIV epidemic. And I was in Champaign-Urbana, and remember there's this one big ACT UP protest that happens that I was at, and I like read this account of this protest, and it was like, exactly my memory of being there that day, like how we came down the Miracle Mile and they took over buildings, and it was really amazing to read. And then I get to the end and you look at the picture of the woman who wrote the book and she's like 30. And you just think like, oh my gosh, like my life is now like a historical piece.
Yeah. I will say
Rebecca
that,
Mackey, I think was her was the author's name. It was a really delightful book. I love that book. One of my best of
I
last
found
year.
that with so Kevin, my oldest, is 30, and he and his friends have long been obsessed with the 80s. And I remember thinking when they first started looking into 80s music and fashion, and I was like, why are you doing that?
Yeah.
Why? Because I lived there, and it wasn't, I don't know. I was in college. I graduated from high school in 1980, and I graduated from college in 1986. And I just remember it being such a strange time, especially for fashion.
The fashion was horrendous. Why would anybody want to bring that back?
I refused
well, like
to
the
comply
new
with
wave
that.
fashion was, but now you look back on like what was new wave fashion, like you're just like, oh god.
No.
No.
Yeah, I mean, I refused to wear my hair hued. I mean, I did have a perm in 1980 when we were living in South Korea. That was like the big thing to do. Everybody had giant hair. But when I got back to the States, I just couldn't do it. I couldn't wear my hair like super sprayed up and big, and it just seemed absurd. Plus it's hot.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah,
anyway.
I was more on like the Annie Lennox side of things. Like I had super
Nice.
short buzz cut with like the long bangs down the front. And I probably always had like a rat's tail off the back or something, where you had that like braid off
The
the back.
rat's tail, that's right. Oh my God.
You remember the rat's tails? Yep.
Oh.
I do remember getting in college. I remember this well because I went home for the weekend to wash my clothes and whatnot. And I had gotten this haircut that was kind of like the Susie Quattro style shag. And it was short. I don't know. It was fucked up. And I remember going home and my father said to me, he's like, what did you do to your hair? It looks like a goat chewed on the top of your head. And I was just like, well, shit.
Charming.
I know. And after that, I was like, well, maybe I should just wear a baseball cap. And I might have.
I had somebody at one point during that era, actually, because I went as an exchange student to Indonesia, and somebody said to me, you know, when you're eating a mango, and I was like, yeah, and you get down to the core and you like really chew on it, and it, like all the mango like sticks off the seed.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah,
crazy hair.
Yeah, and they were like, that's what your hair looks like. Like I've been thinking about it. That's what your hair looks like.
Wow.
That is really funny.
Like a chewed on mango pit.
Isn't it funny how this?
And then, it was like, yeah. And then you're like, thanks. Or not.
Okay.
Yeah, I had I remember some travel experiences in the 80s. I went to boarding. I started out in ninth grade going to boarding school in the south of Germany. And so that was sort of a weird experience because we were isolated from the main fashions, and then you would go home and, raves were beginning to happen and acid house beginning to happen, right?
Fashion was changing quick in
Fashion
those
was
days.
very quick, yeah. And it was a very sort of posh private school where, the kids are wearing Timberland and all the high-end, like the Burberry jackets and yada yada, right? And I went on exchange. I was an exchange student with a sister school in England. And this clueless school, like here I am, I'm like 14 or maybe, 14, not yet 15. And so I should have been in fourth form. It's too bad Rosalind isn't here. But so that I could have privileges and go off campus on the weekends, they put me in sixth form. Well, with sixth form came not just the privileges that I could get rid of the school uniform in the afternoon and use the front door and stupid rules like that.
Right.
School. but also the responsibility of supervising homework for the lower grades. And so here I am, 14, supervising 15-year-olds or whatever in the lower grades who did not take well to being supervised
Right.
by a German
I
exchange
can imagine. Yeah.
student. I ended up having to send people to the principal, and it's just like wild.
Wait, you were officially an exchange student
I
at
was
the
an
school?
exchange student. Yeah, I
Oh,
was an
interesting.
exchange between the two boarding schools. But then I remember just roaming all over London during breaks and on weekends, staying with friends and just having a fine time, like roaming in
Mm.
London and going to all kinds of strange galleries and coffee
This
houses.
That's
was
what I was
this
going to
like
ask if you were in
mid
London.
mid to late 80s?
No, it's like 85, like literally
85?
like
Wow.
86.
That must have been really cool,
It was
actually, when I
really
think.
cool. Yeah, like if you're not afraid to roam, it's Maggie Thatcher, right? It was like the Maggie Thatcher era, right? Like,
Yeah.
didn't she send off some planes to bomb the shit out of Beirut right around that time?
I mean, she was in
Maybe.
power for a long time in the 80s, right?
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
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 It's funny. I remember when I was a kid, and probably not high school, but like maybe middle school, we were like so into looking back at the 50s, right? And like you wanted to dress up like the 50s. And I remember my mom saying the same thing, like, I lived through the 50s. Believe me, it wasn't that great. Like,
Mhm.
and now we kind of say that to our kids. You're like, yeah, the 80s.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember being really stressed by the music too. Because I just thought, oh my God, this like the mainstream radio music. We were listening to a lot of Bruce Springsteen and the Grateful Dead and Bob Dylan and stuff like that. So, I mean, if you compare that with, like you said, the whole new wave.
Oh yeah, I was like an English
Eagles.
beat. Well, I mean, like I definitely listened to punk music, so not really of that era, but like Black Flag and Dead Kennedys was still popular.
That was my roommate,
And then
Stephanie.
The Smiths.
Oh
yeah,
God,
and then
she was such a punk. It was
Elvis
great.
Costello
Elvis
and
Costello. U2 came about, right? In the 80s?
yeah,
Yeah.
U2 was a little bit on the other side of that, but
Yeah.
Oh my
a little
God,
bit
I
later in the
remember
80s.
1986. I went with a group of my friends up to RFK Stadium. I think it was 86. Maybe. I'd have to look at my ticket stub. We went up to RFK Stadium to see U2, the Unforgettable Fire tour.
Wow.
It was so good. I mean,
I
that
bet.
just blew us away. That was a really good experience. Everybody was really into it, like the whole stadium. It was amazing.
What year was that?
I want to say it was 86, but I think it may have been earlier. Because it must have been maybe like 84.
Were
Because
they
I went with
playing
my
stadiums in the
boyfriend who by
early
86.
80s?
Yeah, I know. That's why I was like,
were they
to play
playing big
RFK
stadiums?
Stadium.
I know.
That's why I was thinking it
Oh
would be
no, it
later in the
wasn't. It was the
80s.
Capitol Center. That's where it was. Because RFK was the Grateful Dead and Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers. Because that was outside and we all ate acid.
Wait, the Capitol Center existed at that time?
I think that's what it was. Like
Or
I said,
maybe
I
it
have
was
to look
just
at
in
my.
that downtown area.
Yeah, it was downtown. I remember it was an indoor stadium, so it must have been. My memories all run together from that time period because we partied so hard.
What? Can't imagine. Crazy talk.
Yeah, basically just driving up and down like the eastern seaboard between DC
Going
and
to
Florida.
shows.
Just fucking around.
Yeah. Yep. For me, that would have been between St. Louis and Chicago.
Exactly. Yeah, just looking to go visit somebody's
And
family.
going to little,
where we could party.
mostly little shows, but
yeah.
You know.
Those were the two biggest that I can think of that we went to see in the 80s that were like, we drove for it because we were in college in North Carolina. And if you were going to
drive all the way to DC, that's pretty far.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was a caravan of high college students.
Trying to remember who I saw in the 80s. I'm a little younger than you, Dana, but I saw The Cure in Dublin.
Yeah.
Ooh,
oh, that's a good show.
That was a good show.
That would be very cool.
It may have been what would have been Transformations, maybe. Yeah, or Love Cats, who knows?
I saw the
And then
Clash.
Clash.
I,
Ooh,
I
where was
think I saw
that?
Clash playing with Adamant. I think it was
Oh.
Adamant as the opener
Oh, wow.
and the Clash as the headliner. Yeah.
That must have been really good. Where did you see the Clash?
They were at a St. Louis venue, mid-sized venue. I can't remember, maybe like one of the theaters that had rock shows in them. It was definitely not a place that had like a mosh pit. I remember being in like folding down auditorium shows, and we all get there and we're like, what? Like,
Yeah.
because so many of the shows, small punk shows would be no seating. They'd be in venues with no seats.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah, just a giant open cement cube,
yeah,
right?
yeah, yep. English Beat, I definitely saw. They were always a favorite. Elvis Costello.
Nice. That's good.
Yeah.
You guys listen to any Billy Bragg?
I was never a Billy Bragg fan, but I, always had friends who loved Billy Bragg.
I saw him before he became really big
Mhm.
in Victoria, BC, of all places, like a
Oh, yeah.
tiny little, like at the U Vic student auditorium.
Right.
It's like 300 kids in there, and you're going, what?
Because
What
he
years
did
were you
become
in?
more like a world music kind of musician, yeah, Billy Bragg?
Yeah, he sort of leftist folk punk, right?
Yeah.
Out of
Yeah.
the UK.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then he released a whole bunch of I think Lost Woody Guthrie songs. If I'm not mistaken, I think that was him.
Mhm. Mhm.
What years were you in Victoria?
88 to 90.
Ooh, that would have been interesting. A different vibe than now for sure.
Yeah, you might say that. Lots of druggies in downtown Victoria.
Yeah, it
And the
seems like
school I
now
went
it's
to,
filled with old people.
oh God, it's so upwardly mobile and posh and, sort of
Yeah.
retirement community, basically. But the school, which was, it's all dedicated to peace and international understanding, was at the end of a bay, at the mouth of which, on one side, was a medium security prison, and across from it was a big Canadian naval base.
Wow.
Wait, so you were an exchange student there as well,
So that was
Astrid?
an
Or?
international school. I was part of the
Okay.
German contingent that got sent to this international school. Got sent. Sounds like I was.
I know. It was like it sounds like you
I'm
were
sorry.
like.
It was an amazing honor and privilege to be one of only 3 Germans being sent to this very exclusive international school on a full scholarship. But yeah, so you would be out sailing or kayaking, listening to the Marine Channel, and you'd be like, today stay out of sector HQ for subsurface and surface torpedo practice. And you, what? It's like, no, don't be shooting torpedoes at me. And all the nautical charts have these big exclusion zones that you're not supposed to go into. That's what I
Wow.
remember about the naval base.
Wow.
How far up Vancouver Island did you go when you were with that? Did you guys go up the inner channel a ways or?
Oh, on the inside passage between, yeah. No, I sailed all over that place.
Oh my, I can't even imagine how beautiful that must have been. And I'm sure it was a lot less, I mean, it's not very developed anyway, but it must have been like wilderness then.
Oh, total wilderness. I remember we were up island on Vancouver Island one time on a canoeing trip. There's a big lake in the middle of Vancouver Island. And we woke up the next morning. We had pitched a tent on like this little sand spit in like on an island in the lake, or so we thought, or peninsula in the lake. And we wake up and we banished one of our friends to sleep outside under the canoe because he was just such a big snorer. And we wake up in the morning and there are these paw prints, like wolf paws, the size of my hand. And they wandered all around our tents.
And he was sleeping under the
and that
canoe.
guy was under a canoe.
Brian was sleeping under the canoe. Luckily, the
That's
wolves
a good
were very
story.
interesting.
That's a good
The
story.
paw prints are just amazing. I'll never forget.
I don't know if you'd be safer in a tent or under a canoe if
Yeah, no,
wolves were coming
nothing-
around.
Nothing about the situation was safe. It was all part of it. These schools have like a heavy duty commitment to experiential learning, right? They were created by the same guy who the same people that invented Outward Bound, and so that was part of our curriculum. Exposing yourself to imminent lethal danger in the wilderness.
Right.
Was part of It's just what you did on
It does
Saturday.
build character for sure.
Or something.
Or something. Or something. Or get you killed, one of the two.
Yes, I have a well-honed fight or flight response.
Yeah.
Wow.
Oh, that's a good story.
So yeah, that's the 80s right there.
There we
Yeah.
go. Yep.
That's a very wide swath of experiences in the 80s, right?
Oh, okay. Well, should we get going today?
Yeah, let's.
Those aren't glasses, those are ears.